In 2005, Steve Jobs gave his commencement address at Stanford University. Probably one of the most memorable speeches I've ever heard. But in it, Steve Jobs mentioned something that I remember as a young kid. It was called the Whole Earth Catalog. Anyone here ever read it? I promise you have gray hair if you did.
Yeah, or none.
The Whole Earth Catalog was basically Google 35 years before there was Google. Any product review you wanted was on the Whole Earth Catalog. Any advice you wanted was on the Whole Earth Catalog. It was counterculture, and quite honestly, especially when I was that young, it was cool to carry under your arm. But what I loved about the Whole Earth Catalog was the very last page of it always had a piece of advice. Just a piece of wisdom. It was always the first thing I ever turned to. In the very last catalog they made, 1974, I remember flipping to the back page to see the advice they offered, especially on the last catalog ever going to produce. God, I love these words. It showed a picture of a country road, the kind I might have hitchhiked on when I was that age. And under it, the words, "Stay hungry, stay foolish. Stay hungry, stay foolish." Think about those words for a second. Steve Jobs was the best example I've ever seen in my life of someone who stayed hungry and stayed foolish. And he happens to be one of my heroes. Everyone knows the story. Built a business with Wozniak, dropped out of college. By 1980, Apple is a public company and a huge success. They bring in John Scully from PepsiCo. He comes on board, and what is one of the first things he does in 1985? Someone tell me. He fires Steve Jobs. He fired him from his own company. Can you imagine that? Now, if you're Steve Jobs, what do? You've just been fired from the company that you started. What do you do? And what he chose to do is to stay hungry and stay foolish. So he started a company called Next. It was creative. He went on to a company called Pixar. Has anyone not seen something by Pixar? Anybody? And in 1997, what happens? Apple buys Next and reinstates Steve Jobs as a CEO. Does that happen without this man, without him being hungry and being foolish? It doesn't. Does it happen being someone who has a thin file? No. Steve Jobs pissed everybody off. Everyone. He stepped on every toe. He stole Windows from Xerox before Gates stole it from him. He had a thick file, but it never scared him because he always stayed hungry. He always stayed foolish. Our last speaker lived a lifetime of staying hungry and foolish. 10 years ago, Sheryll Mizell came to me and said, "I want to start a network, something similar to what you're doing." Well, I've had 1,000 people come to me and ask me that. And yeah, I spent some time with her, just like I did the other 1,000 people. The difference is, Sheryll actually did it. She actually had the courage to do it. Her training is in accounting and human resources, and she's done accounting her whole life. But Sheryll made an observation while she was building her own network. No matter how hard she tried to change the financial habits of her clients, she couldn't change them without changing the way they thought. No matter how hard she tried, well, budget this and put aside that and you will get this. No matter how hard she tried to get that point across, she couldn't do it without changing the way her clients thought. So Sheryll embarked on something remarkable in videos, in books, in podcasts, changing the way people thought about money. And people thought about their lives and their careers. And she started teaching them a very simple concept. If you do it right in drill, you'll do it right in life. If you do it right in drill, you'll do it right in life. Where did that come from? Well, Neil Armstrong lands on the moon in 1969 and comes up with that ridiculous, well-thought-out tripe of one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Bullshit. It was nonsense. But then, after he landed, after he said what he had to say into the microphone, the mics were still turned on. And Neil Armstrong looked around the moon, looked at the Earth, was fascinated. And he said something under his breath, underneath his breath, that the mics picked up. He said, just like drill. Just like drill. You see, Neil Armstrong landed on the moon so many times in his mind that when he actually did it, it was Old Homes Week. He'd been there a million times before. If you do it right in drill, folks, you do it right in life. Sheryll, get up here and tell them how you do it.
Hello, hello. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hope you don't mind. I wrote some notes down just to make sure I stay in time. This is a great segue, coming behind the group talking about the movie and also staying hungry and foolish. And so, does everyone here like Adele? Does anyone know Adele? You like that song, Hello? Mm-hmm. So I like to have fun with my clients because sometimes they don't like the idea of money and budget is like that nasty other B word that we don't like. And so my clients don't like that. So I like to have fun. So I created, and don't judge me for how I'm sounding when I'm singing, right? But I created a song called Hello for My Bank Account. So hope we can have some fun before I jump in, right? Okay, don't judge me. Hello, can you hear me? I've been thinking about our finances and where we need to be before we get older, you and me. Hello, can you hear me? Are you still online shopping, creating bank overdrafts? Are those your packages? Did you save some cash? So hello from your bank account. At least you can't say that I don't count our money daily and all the things that you buy. But I'll never leave you as long as you don't try to leave us empty. No, don't leave your bank account empty. Thank you. That was my rendition of American Idol. And so, people during this pandemic, and thank you, Steve, for that wonderful introduction, because I'm like, how am I going to start this off? But do we really pay attention to our bank account? I started that song because a lot of my clients and a lot of people I notice are on autopilot when it comes to their money, right? Back in the day, we had cash. So we would go to the store, we knew how much money we were spending because we had to actually pay with cash, pay with money, pay with coins. Over the years, technology, and I love technology, but over the years, people got accustomed to using their phone, their card to just tap, 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 and no one really understands how much money they're spending, right? And then fast forward to the pandemic, they were telling us that money was dirty. We knew money was dirty. We knew coins were dirty. They were just trying to get everybody on the phone, all this automation that they're coming with, right? So everybody got accustomed to using their phone and their bank accounts, right? But when I asked that question, like, how many of us miss being at work and being in corporate America? Well, I know sometimes I miss that connection, but I also tell people back in the day, it's coffee. I'm not going to say the brand because I was told I can't really say the brand because I don't want to get sued, so I'll just say coffee. It's the new cigarette, right? Remember back in the day, you'd see people 2 or 3 times a day, and I'm not judging people who smoke, whatever your vice is, right? But back in the day, people actually took 2 or 3 breaks, go downstairs, you see them in the cold. I'd see them standing in front of the building, shivering. I'm like, it's 10 degrees below out here and you're smoking 2 or 3 times a day. But then fast forward, then it became coffee. The new break became coffee. Your boss got you upset, you got coffee. It would be like 2 or 3 people. I can almost know what time it was based on who got up to get coffee. Did Paul get up? Then it's probably 10 o'clock. He just got here, but it's 10 o'clock. Is it Mary? Then it's probably 11:30. I knew when lunchtime was. I knew when it was time to leave because people always went out, and they went out in groups. I'm like, I just went to the restroom for 5 minutes. You're wondering where I am. They went out for like 3 times a day. It's like, it was just a norm, something that we just got accustomed to, and no one said anything about it, and it's okay. And you guys mentioned Netflix, right, and the streaming. So fast forward, I mean, I don't want to stay stuck in the pandemic because I know a lot of us are still probably going through, we're still in it, it's like 2 years later. But I realize now it's not the coffee that's the new cigarette, it's online shopping. Online shopping is the new drug, that new thing that we need to help us de-stress, right? To help us alleviate some pain. And I get it. But it's like we're stuck in this, I don't say a time warp, but we're stuck in not knowing how to get through our emotions, right? We don't know how to deal with it. We haven't been taught. And it's okay, we haven't really been taught about, especially if you come from a background like me where you're taught that whatever happens here, like Vegas, stays here. What happens in the house, stays in the house. You're a child, right? Even today I hear some parents saying, you're a kid. Kids should be seen and not heard. And so as adults, I'm realizing we're not even realizing how to handle and deal with difficult conversations or deal with any kind of emotional things that happen. And so then we become aware of, we don't even become aware of how much money we are spending, right? And so I ask my clients, what is your bank account actually telling you? Is it telling you that you're operating from empty? Because your bank account money is energy, right? And so people don't understand that how you're feeling inside is actually representative of your money. And it's not based on how much money you make or how much money you have in the bank, right? But what is your bank account actually telling you? Is it saying you need to take a break? You're running on empty. Did you make any deposits, right? Or are you operating out of overflow and abundance, right? If you're like me, sometimes I'm logical and sometimes I'm emotional. Are we operating from being too logical and too emotional, right? Where we're being on autopilot and not realizing when and where we're actually spending the money? Or are we in balance, right? But I tell my clients, check your head and your heart, right? Together, there should be some kind of balance. Check your breathing. At any point, whenever you're feeling stressed and you don't know, how does it feel in your body? You know, you kind of get a feel once you do it long enough of how things feel in your body if you're making the right decision. Check your head, check your heart. I'm not sure if it was Wayne Dyer who mentioned like tapping your heart or tapping the space like 3 times, so I kind of calm, which I'm doing now until I calm and center myself, right? But there are different tools that we can help us to move forward. And I don't mind, being foolish, right? Like sometimes it's okay to go out and spend but still be wise, right, at the same time in terms of how it comes to your business. And so remember that the best decisions are made when your mind and your emotions are kind of working together, right? And so people usually ask me, like, what is financial wellness? And I know Stephen introduced me, but hello, I'm Sheryll Mizell. My friends call me your favorite financial wellness coach and strategist. And I'm also the CEO of Fit for Biz Consulting, Inc., where inspiration creates transformation. Because, like Stephen mentioned, people are just not going to change. Like, I keep telling my clients, like, you can give them all the budgets that you want to and say, hey, do X, do Y, do Z. But if you're not constantly implementing that, right, or having someone actually have to call you all the time to motivate you, then most people won't be inspired to keep it up. And so I tell people that, financial wellness is where your current and your future obligations, where you feel comfortable and secure about your financial future. But also, right, where you can improve your mental health, because mental health is important, and your physical health. And also you want to enjoy life. Most people think of budgets as a sacrifice. You're keeping me from doing my favorite things. I don't like the word sacrifice. I tell people I'm a daddy's girl. I'm spoiled. And yeah, I don't want anybody else to spoil me, but I'm spoiled. It's not my fault. I'm sorry, it's not my fault. I'm spoiled, right? So, but it's okay. As long as you know, you have a plan, you have a blueprint as to how you want to get from point A to point Z, and it's okay. And we don't talk about sacrifice. I have my clients, and I may be excessive, but I have them do like more than one budget. I have them do one where, and this is where they don't like me, right? Because I say, write down everything you spend your money on. Everything. I'm not sure if you noticed, but I have hauls. I just love the taste of the honey lemon hauls. They're up to $1.50 now. $1.50. 2 packs is $3. $1.50. I've asked my clients to put everything in your budget. Because imagine if I did everything, I think about the bigger items, right? Like your house, your mortgage, your rent, right? Your gas, electricity, like those are the common things, right? But when you're in a, let's see, a different mindset, right? You're upset, you're sad, and you're on autopilot, right? You're not realizing what you're doing. So you're spending money because I have the money or I have my card and I'm just tapping. But what if we create another budget, right? That has the things on it that you enjoy doing, right? Like a fun plan. Like I tell my clients, you can save and you can spend. Who tells you can spend? Yes, you can spend. Yay for spending. We can spend our money. Yes, right? But you have to budget for it, right? And then you get to budget for your future self, right? We always in this today, I want this, but 3 years is going to come down. Nobody knew the pandemic was going to happen, right? Some of my clients were still trying to recover from the 2009, 2010 economic recession, right? I told you I'm an accountant. I wasn't arrogant about it, but I was like, accountants always going to have a job, right? Not when you have all these big companies that they didn't downsize, they actually closed. And if you have these big companies that have more than one location, you have a whole bunch of financial services people competing for these jobs. And so people are still recovering from that. And then bam, here comes a pandemic. But most of my clients were okay. Even if they lost clients, because I tell fund your future self. Fund for 2 to 5 years from now. Doesn't have to be anything big, like small steps, right? And then you create another budget where it's like, what do I want to do on Friday? What do I want to do on Saturday? That I want to plan for, like, who remembers back in the day when the banks had those holiday accounts? You couldn't close the account. You had to put deposit in, but you couldn't take the money out until Christmas. What if we thought about a budget like that, where it's like you can actually plan for your travel, plan for those things, right? And so, as Stephen mentioned, back in the day, my business started as accounting. I figured that was the best thing that I can do, in terms of what I can offer, and I was passionate about helping people, right? But then I noticed, as Stephen mentioned, energy. Like I draw on energy. Because of how, I guess, my communication, how I grew up, I just started observing people. I just love observing people, not to judge them, but just like, oh wow, they're upset. You couldn't even tell she's upset. But this one you could tell she's upset. So I started looking for the people who were upset and how they handled it. Well, how are they able to still smile and still have this nice conversation and walk away and still be happy and leaving the other person feeling happy and not feeling like they just got a bucket of cold water dropped on them. See? Yeah, I know people like that. Yeah. Hi, my name is Sheryll, and I'm the person who does, because you don't know. And you don't know what you don't know. You just think that that's how I am and that's who I am. And I think a lot of people are operating a life that way and not realizing how that's impacting your money. And so I realized that when I saw my clients do it, I realized how many other people are in these moments when they, like these big moments in their life, right? Where they're going for like that dream job, that dream interview, right? Or that dream client or investor. I was helping my clients usually create packages to sit in front of investors and scale their business. Or what if you're sitting in front of that perfect date? This is the perfect person. And then you come there and like today, I came late and I apologize, right? But I'm in a different state. Before that would have really flustered me. And I probably wouldn't have shown him. I probably would have called him like, oh my gosh, because I would have felt, oh my goodness, I made a mistake. No one's gonna like me. And I think a lot of times we operate from, we do these things and people are not gonna like us, right? But I was like, nope, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna enjoy because this is the first time that I've actually been in a space, and I wanna thank you again for me being one of the first presenters like right after the pandemic, because I'm so passionate about, a global financial healing. And I believe we needed that before the pandemic, and we definitely need that now, right? Because people are trying to figure out, the doors are opening, what do I do? Who am I now, right? They were trying to figure that out before. But if you come from now, I'm working remotely, now I'm the mom, I'm the wife, or I'm the partner, I'm a teacher. I got all these kids here doing remote learning. They're asking me how to answer a question. I'm telling them to ask the teacher. And the teacher's like, well, I don't know. Ask your mom, she's sitting right there. I've heard those stories, right? And so we're still trying to figure this thing out and take control of our money. And I realized everybody wants like 6, 7 figures. Most people just want to know, what can I do with what I have now? How can I save? How can I make this work with what I have today? And so once I started thinking about that, that's when I thought about, let me rebrand my business. I was one of those people who, I never had a website. I never had marketing, never had advertising, because I love people, right? I love people, so I love meeting people and talking to people. And so my friends knew what I was doing. So all of my clients were referrals. They came, they were like, I need this, I need assistance with this. They would call me. I never had a website, I never spent money for any of those things. So when the doors shut down, I'm grateful that, again, my resume still covers me. I'm grateful that I was able to hook up with a recruiting agency and was able to work remotely. And so people ask me, well, how were you able to do that? I wasn't going out and meeting people. It's because when people know who you are and you build relationships with people, they just want to reach out and they think of you when it's like an idea happens. And so I was able to do HR remote twice. People are like, how did you get that? As soon as one job finished, a month later, another job came without me actually doing anything. People ask, how does that happen? How are you and other people able to manifest things even out of, things that are out of your control or out of, a global pandemic? And I say it's all these tools that, you get to learn when you take one of my courses. And so what I also realized, so let me say this, I did a lot of things during the pandemic. So I'm a certified personal trainer. I got a license to be a life coach. I'm a content creator. I didn't realize, wow, I love writing. I thought I loved just math. But back in the day, I used to get red marks when I wrote in English. I'm like, I'm not gonna write anything. But man, I wrote all this poetry. I'm writing books, right? I'm getting them edited now. I'm doing things that I didn't think about. And that's how people, sometimes, even in the midst of a struggle, we make a room for you. But if we're so tied up with what we're doing every day at work, if we're so focused on this 9 to 5 or 9 to 8 or 9 to 10 or whatever the case may be, when do you have time to actually sit still and figure out what you want to do? And maybe like me, I love being in corporate America and I also love being a CEO. And so I find a way to do both. And you can have both without it actually interrupting your life or your partner's life, as long as it's great communication. And so I'm not sure how much time I have, so I'm gonna, okay.
It's 10 minutes.
Okay, great, I'll be done, okay. And so when I realized, the reason why I got into the personal training, because I realized prior to the pandemic, I was looking at elders and seniors and seeing how they were actually, like in my neighborhood, in terms of their posture, why some people who are like in their 70s and 80s still walk with a great posture, and why some who are like 50s, 60s are bent over, and so I got fascinated with that. So my goal before the pandemic was to actually create these courses, go to either senior citizens or assisted living homes, and help them with creating packages where they can just, even if they just dance, just something to like get movement. But then when the pandemic happened, I'm like, oh my gosh, people are sitting down all day. We're doing more sitting than ever before. How can I help them with being flexible? How can I make sure you're working on the computer, your wrists, your hips, because your hip flexes, or when you're leaning over with the computer all the time, and we don't understand all of those things. And so so January 1st, given all that, I started a 21-day I Choose Me challenge. And that was to help people of the pandemic to start like dreaming again. So to start thinking about putting yourself first before you put everybody else first. How do we do that? Out of all these things, you get up in the morning, you started with the affirmation. You started with, I call it your morning glory. right? We talk about G is being gratitude. You're always grateful for your breath. L is you create these love affirmations, right, for yourself. What am I saying to myself? Always you're owning. Whatever you see in that mirror, whatever it is, you own it. You love yourself. Whatever it is, you love where you are, right? Regardless of how it is, you love where you are. R is we get to reclaim and rediscover that to-do list. Is the stuff on here really what I want to do with my goals? And then the I is just inspiration and implementing everything that you learned. And so my email, if anyone saw the email, I mentioned that because I'm rebranding, I wanted you all to listen and to learn what I wanted to do and why I'm rebranding my business, because now we're in an online space and I never thought about being in an online space. But before I talk about how much I'm asking for and what I need it for, I want you to realize that I'm not asking for support just so my business can grow, right? So that means I can get some money to do some things, right? Or just offering some 3 or 4, hour workshops, right? I'm asking for support because, like I mentioned, I want support in this. It's a global financial healing movement now that I'm doing. Everybody needs it. It's like we need to, and it's not just the finances, right? It's more than just money. It's everything else, your mindset, your mouth. What am I saying? How am I feeling about myself today? Everything, because I know people who have 6 figures, right? But they're one paycheck away from losing everything. And then I know people who are making $50,000 and $60,000, right? Who own real estate property and have their children's college savings plans. How is that possible? And so I want you to know I'm asking for support in a way to help people dream again, to help me help people dream again and imagine what their life and their lifestyle can be, what they desire, what they actually dream about, right? To help them create a legacy of wealthy habits. And I say wealthy, WELLTHY. And that's where wealth meets wellness. Because we're so focused on wealth, I'm tired of hearing the word grind and hustle and burn the midnight hour. You don't have to work like that in order to be successful, in order to get the lifestyle that you want, right? And so those are things I want you to have in mind when I'm thinking about it. So what I'm doing now is I'm actually creating a 6-week online money course, right? Where we're actually helping people to understand how your mindset, what you say to yourself, what you're thinking, get aware of the negative self-talk. What am I actually saying? What am I actually thinking? And taking a breath and pause before you actually spend your money or make any decisions, right? And I'm also, and then that's going to jump into a 6-month to 12-month course where I'm still a personal trainer. I wanted to do something where it's including a membership. So, because it's not like, okay, I'm here, you're here for 2 hours, you're gonna learn some money. It's a lifestyle, and fit for biz, being fit for the business of you. Fit for the busyness of you, because we're all busy in different ways, right? And so how do we incorporate our own version of a budget? And with that 6 to 12 month is actually going to include a membership subscription where we're doing every month we're going to talk about different exercises, workouts, finances. We're going to talk about money. You're going to get a little inspiration in there as well, right? And then Steve mentioned I'm doing a podcast. So the podcast, I want to showcase phenomenal women who are actually doing things and showcasing that, I'm still going through a struggle, but I'm still manifesting and creating abundance, and the world needs to see that. And I'm also, what I want to do is I know that there are people, especially kids, high school students, junior high school students, and women who maybe find themselves in situations where they can't actually pay for it. I actually want to find a way to actually offer it to them for free, right? And so what I'm actually asking for now is nowhere near your budget. I'm going to get there at some point, because I'm going to have my own show, Mizell show. I don't know what this is going to be, right? And a retreat, which I want to do, my 2 to 5 year plan is actually going to include a retreat where we actually have fun. So right now, I'm only requesting 50K. And what that is just going to help me coaching, because in terms of I'm going to jump into this online, so I need access to coaching. I just realized with the podcast, you need a mic, you need the lighting, you need a camera, you need a new computer, you need speakers because of the sound, right? Social media, I need a social media manager. I think someone mentioned someone on their staff was a media maverick or something. I need a social media marketing. I've never done these. I've never had to market, never had to advertise. So all these things are new to me. I need a team to help build that, plus a video editor, and there's probably some other things that I'm not thinking about. So 50K would probably help me, at least jumpstart me right now until later on when I'm doing some other phenomenal things like maybe movies. I don't know. Now that I'm dreaming, why not? I was like, wow, I could do that. I love cartoons, not cartoons, but I love animated things, and I'm like, oh, that's so wonderful. Or how could it be that I can actually incorporate and help my clients do some things as well too, and get funding or even help them with grants, so how that looks, right? And so I want to thank you again. Thank you again for actually allowing me to have a conversation with all of you, and for all of you to like listen, to learn, to what I'm up to and why I need to rebrand, especially in this virtual online world. Because what my challenge taught me was that I just did it for 21 days, January 1st to the 21st. But in that short time, I didn't plan for it. There were 4 people there representing different countries. I had like people there from like 4 to 5 different states, all because I jumped into a challenge that I wanted to help people and inspire people to actually get in touch, to dream again, to know you're not alone, that we're all in the same boat, we're all trying to figure this thing out. It has nothing to do with how much money you have. It has to do, we're all trying to figure this thing out. And so thank you again. And before I go, I just want to say that what I tell my clients is once we become aware of what we're saying to ourselves, right? What we're thinking about ourselves, how we're feeling about ourselves, then we can begin to heal, not just our money, but heal ourselves, heal our generation, right? The kids, like what are the kids going to learn based on how we're reacting to what's going on, right? And so thank you. And if there's any comments or questions, yes, thank you. Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt. I'd just like to get more of a feel of what exactly you're trying, what product you're putting out. Are you planning? I realize you have a lot of ambition, but let's start with the basics. Are you planning to have a course online?
Yes, I'm a coach, so it's a coaching group online. So I'm doing like Teachable or Kajabi. I'm looking into one of those online courses to actually put out online courses and workshops.
Is this going to be interactive where people can, because you're talking about counseling too, so you have to actually contact individuals. Can they contact you? Or
Yes, it's going to be interactive, so it's going to probably be on Zoom. They get access to the recordings, right? And then we're also going to create probably a Facebook page where once a month or once every other week, they actually get access to me to actually speak to me. We can actually set up maybe once a month or however big the group is, right? And have like coaching calls throughout the thing, so they're not left alone.
Are you going to, let me see, if this is going to be interactive, do the people subscribe to this and pay? Is that how you kind of intend to make a living at this or something?
Yes, well, what the package that I'm going to offer, well, there's 2 separate things. Thank you for that question. With the 12-month package, because it's a lifestyle, right? And so when you're talking about it's your whole life. So you go to the gym, like what do you do on a regular basis, right? When you get up in the morning. And so the membership subscription will actually support them in their daily life for a year, where we're actually doing like I mentioned, having like the gratitude, you're doing exercises, right? And so it is a membership subscription to that. But then on top of that, I do coaching, I do personal training. So on top of that, I'm actually going to create a group, maybe the same group, where I'm having people subscribe. Because before I used to go to the gym. So instead of going to the gym, right, you pay Planet Fitness, whatever that amount is, it's going to be online. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be access to a portal.
Now you said you're also going to have a podcast where you feature famous women?
Well, all women are famous, but women who are actually phenomenal women who are actually showcasing how they were able to transform their money relationships, who are out there. Like I have a Create Your Roar. Like especially with my women clients, I always get them to understand, like, own your space, like no matter how nervous you are, own your space, own your voice, because I find that sometimes our voice gets watered down some kind of way. So I have a lot of access to a lot of women where they're actually doing a thing in spite of being afraid or in spite of whatever their struggles are.
Well, why only women? There are a lot of men out there who are afraid too.
Well, you know what? No, absolutely. And because my target market when I first started the accounting business was women like 35 and over. That's who kind of gravitates towards me. Although men, I find, speak to me about self-care. Like I'm the space for men to come to talk about like emotional stuff. So I'm trying to find a podcast name that incorporates the both, so I can have access to both. So maybe we can talk about. I thought about your happy, healthy money, get your fit together. I don't know if that works as a podcast, but I'm open to suggestions about how that will look so that way I can incorporate the two, because I am also focused on men wellness, because I understand, because I look at my dad and his generation where, and even now, men aren't taught they're taught to be strong and you're not supposed to cry. But for whatever reason, maybe I should have been a therapist, for whatever reason, most of my male friends, they just tend to talk to me about stuff because I'm not judging them, I'm not judging their partner. Like, I'm not saying divorce them. I'm saying, okay, why is this? And we talk about it. So that's a great question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's wrap up. If you stay hungry and you stay foolish and you build a really thick file, will you become Steve Jobs or Alexander Hamilton? What do you think? Probably not. Okay. Probably not. Will you make a difference in other people's lives? The answer is 100% yes. 1984, Arnold Fine, a name nobody here would know, walking down a suburb of Chicago, just outside the city, looked down on the ground and saw a wallet. How many times have it happened to all of you? I found wallets, didn't you? And he picked it up. And he looked inside to see who the owner might be, so he called them and tell them you lost your wallet. No identification, no credit cards. $3 of cash and a powder blue envelope sitting in the back of the wallet, all crumbled up. Well, he didn't want to eavesdrop, so he took out the envelope, took out the letter, hoping to find a clue. Who owned this wallet? Turned out to be a Dear John letter, written by a woman named Hannah to the man who obviously owned the wallet, named Michael. It was a beautifully written letter, beautifully written, very, very feminine handwriting. And in it she said that she's sorry she could never see Michael again, that she was too young, and her mother forbade her from ever talking to him again. This would be the last communication they ever had. And then the bottom of the letter was the date, 1924. Let me remind you, the year is 1984, this story. This man carried around this Dear John letter in his wallet for 60 years. Now, Arnold Fine didn't know what to do. What would each of you have done in that circumstance? Be honest with yourself. Arnold Fine was a good man. He said, my God, this guy's carried around a Dear John letter for 60 years from this woman. I've got to find him. The $3 didn't make a difference. The wallet itself didn't. But for 60 years he carried this letter and he lost it. So now this was a holy grail. But what did he have? He had a return address on the envelope. That was all he had. He knew that the woman who sent the letter was named Hannah, and the owner of the wallet was named Michael. That's the only clue he had. Again, think about it, folks. What would you do in that circumstance? Well, Arnold Fine was pretty creative. Called the operator, said, operator, you're not going to believe this, but I have a Dear John letter from someone who I'm sure wants it back. I have an address. I have a name, Hannah. Can you find me a number? Everyone said, I can't give you somebody's number based on that. But he explained the story again. Look, this man's been carrying the letter for 60 years. I know he wants it back. Please, can you help me? Operator said, let me get a supervisor. And she did. Supervisor got on the phone and said, you know, I'm checking. The return address you just gave me, that address in the envelope, has a working number. But I can't give it to you. There are privacy issues. So I'll call it for you. I'll see if the person who answers the phone is even willing to talk to you. The operator did it. Arnold Fine waited and waited and waited. Finally, the operator got back on the phone and said, I found someone. They will talk to you. And Arnold Fine repeated the story again. Do you know anybody named Hannah? He asked. I said, oh my God. 30 years ago, Hannah was the daughter of the woman who sold us this house. We know she sold it to us because Hannah had to put her mother in a nursing home at the time. And I do have the number of the nursing home. Fantastic, Arnold said, let me have it. They called the number. And he gave the story all over again to the lead nurse at the nursing home. Said, do you know this woman? And the nursing home lead nurse said, yes. But she died several years ago. However, we have her old contact information. So we have the number for Hannah. Phenomenal. It's been on the phone now 3 hours. Let me have it. So he called Hannah, but Hannah didn't answer. The woman who did said, oh, I'm sorry, Hannah used to live here, but when she checked herself into a nursing home, she sold us this house. However, I have the number of the nursing home. 3.5 hours on the phone. Arnold's going, is this really worth it? But he was hungry, and he was foolish. He called the number. Yes, said the night nurse. Hannah is here with us. Is she up? It's 10 o'clock at night. The nurse said, I can't promise you, but Hannah stays up late. She's usually in the day room on the 3rd floor watching television. If you want to come over, it's your own risk. Remember, he was not coming over to distribute the wallet to its owner. He was coming over to the woman who wrote the owner of the wallet a letter 60 years ago. But Arnold Fine, on a holy grail, got in his car, drove to the nursing home. The night nurse met her and the security guard. They took him up to the 3rd floor. They went to the day room. Sure enough, there was one person in the day room, Hannah. And Arnold Fine walked up to her and said, Hannah, I have a letter written by you from someone who lost their wallet. It was written 60 years ago. He handed Hannah the letter. She began to cry. Oh my God, this is the last communication I ever had with Michael Goldstein. Now he had a last name. Hadn't seen him in 60 years. Michael Goldstein was a good man. He was handsome. He was a good man. You know, I never married, she said to Arnold. Young man, I never met anyone in my life who met up to the standards of Michael Goldstein. Never been married. She said through tearful eyes. Well, if Arnold Fine was on a mission before this, now he was really going after the golden fleece. Nothing was going to stop him. But what did he have? As he was leaving, Hannah turned, if you find Michael, tell him I still love him. Oh. He rode the elevator down. He stared at this wallet. It was an unusual wallet. It was brown, standard brown color, but it had bright red lacing around the edges. And he was thinking to himself, looking at the wallet on his way out the door, all right, I have it made. How many Michael Goldsteins must there be in Chicago? 1,000? 2,000? How many calls am I going to have to make? How much of my life am I going to spend trying to find this man? But after speaking with Hannah, he had to find him. On the way out the door, security guards saw him staring at the wallet and said, excuse me, sir, isn't that Mr. Goldstein's wallet? I said, what? You know the owner of this wallet? Of course I know him. He's an old timer here on the 8th floor. The two lovers lived 5 floors apart for years. They never ran into each other. Well, Arnold Fine went back to the night nurse. Let's go up to the 8th floor. Now, it was very late, but the night nurse said, oh, Mr. Goldstein's such a nice old man. He usually reads late at night in the day room on the 8th floor. He might be there. Sure enough, one person in the day room. Anyone want to take a guess who it was? So Arnold Fine walked in with the powder blue letter, said, "Mr. Goldstein, I found your wallet." Oh, he was thrilled. And I have to tell you, I read the contents of the letter. Well, now, Mr. Goldstein was not so thrilled. It was very personal only to him. Why? Well, I needed some information to be able to track you down. And Michael Goldstein looked up at Arnold and said, "That means you found Hannah." Arnold said, "Yes." "Well, do you know where I can find her? How would I get in touch? Is she still as pretty as she was 60 years ago?" Arnold Fine said, "She's still beautiful. And Mr. Goldstein, I think you better come with me." Well, security guard, the night nurse, some other residents, because this became now a whole trail of people, rode the elevator down from the 8th floor to the 3rd floor. When Michael and Hannah just connected, when their eyes met, it had been 60 years. It was instant recognition. They hugged like they were teenagers. They embraced. And as the night nurse, security guard, and Arnold Fine rode the elevator down to the base floor, they all had tears in their eyes. 3 weeks later, Arnold was in his office, got a phone call from the night nurse. "Can you free yourself up this Sunday?" "Why?" said Arnold. "Because Michael and Hannah are getting married. You're the best man." Sure enough, it was a beautiful wedding. They were 79 and 76 when they wed. They had 24 years together. Let me say that again. They were 79 and 76. They were together for 24 years. In that case, they really did save the best for last. So, if you stay hungry, if you stay foolish, if you have a really thick file, will you become great to the extent that you change people's lives? Even a few of those lives. The answer to that question is yes. Stay hungry, my friends. Stay foolish. I'll see you all in June.